Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome on into another episode of the Rust Belt Rivalry podcast. I'm Brian Philos. As you can see, my co host, Nick Kremchek, not here today. He's got a little case of the sniffles, and he was supposed to come with me on yesterday, Tuesdays, when we usually record, but instead, you're getting a live stream of me recording while the show is going on. So, as usual, we will be talking Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, a lot of NFL recap from week 13, a look into week 14, and we'll talk about college football here a little bit. And maybe two of you will join in while I'm live here. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I'm excited to see what happens. It's a little late. It's 8:40 at night on a Wednesday. So let's see what happens here. Um, as usual, we start with the Bengals, right? Joe Burrow was back, baby, and my co-host Nick was pumped. He was excited. It was Thanksgiving, and that man got him and earned his turkey leg. The Ravens defense was playing bend but don't break football, right? They allowed a few field goals, the first four scoring drives, but the Bengals offense could not get into the end zone. The Bengals defense, on the other hand, was playing a surprisingly new style of game, which was actually playing defense. And to be honest, it was nice to watch. They forced five turnovers, four of them being fumbles, one of them being an interception, and you know they ultimately won the game, right, 32-14. The My co-host Nick. Now, again, I sorry I don't know a whole lot about the Bengals. I watch them here and there, but my co-host thinks that they have a chance to win the AFC North. Now, I, on the other hand, agree with all the numbers. I think this is insane. I think he's nuts. I think he's riding high off of the one game with a team that had five forced turnovers. And you know what? I think if they didn't have those five turnovers, this game would have easily been a blowout in the other direction, right? I think the Ravens could have easily blown them out. They had more yardage. They put up, I think, almost 400 yards in the game. So without those four fumbles and interception, I think it's a totally different game. Currently, the Bengals sit with a 7.2% chance to win the division. So I think I'm not the only one that feels this way, right? Obviously, the numbers are against them. They not only have two games behind the Ravens, but they're two games behind the Steelers as well. And I mean, really, there's only 5 weeks left. So to leapfrog two opponents by two games in 5 weeks, I mean, they do. I'm not going to lie, they do have a little bit of an easier schedule. It looks like they still have the Ravens again. They have the Bills, then the Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns, which are obviously easier. Even though I'm a Browns fan, I will say that I would assume that a healthy Joe Burrow easily beats the Browns in the last week of the season, if it matters. And nonetheless, I don't see the Ravens continuing to flounder, even though they haven't been playing great football. And I still think the Ravens, this is their division to lose. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of football left to be played, but that's my 2 cents on it. Now we'll move into the Browns, where this is for those of you that may be new. If you're streaming in live here, I'm a Browns fan. My co-host is a Bengals fan. I've got a lot of emotions after this game. I was screaming at the TV. I was so frustrated after that Raiders game where they gave us a glimpse of hope, right? They try to show us something. They get us all excited. They got me all excited. They made me think, oh man, maybe Shedeur can just continue to improve, get better, and we can look like a competent NFL football team. Nope, not a chance. What the heck else is there to say? This team is just so frustrating. The defense continues to be dominant. They continue to be great. And this offense and the special teams, especially the special teams, gives you absolutely nothing. I mean, think about this. The special teams gives up a 66-yard return, and the 49ers only need 16 yards to score a touchdown. Doesn't sound very complicated, right? Because it's not. Then The Browns go for it on 4th and 1 on their own 32, fumble, which is, again, I, I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But then they only needed to go 32 yards to score their second touchdown. And lastly, their third touchdown was because of our punt returner, Gage Larbadan, fumbled, muffed the punt, and they recovered it on their own 18 and scored their third touchdown. So you combine those three drives, that's 66 total yards of offense that they needed to put up against our stout defense to score three touchdowns. That is embarrassing. I mean, beyond embarrassing, if you ask me. I cannot fathom what the heck is going on with this team. Bubba Ventrone, how does this man still have a job? Why does Kevin like, does he have pictures of Kevin Stefanski's wife, his family, his kids, something? I mean, I don't understand. Like, I, I always was frustrated. I saw Joe Woods continue to keep his job. He kept his job probably for 2 years longer than I wanted him and most Cleveland fans wanted him, right? And then again, another guy, Chad O'Shea, the wide receivers coach for the Cleveland Browns. What has Chad O'Shea done to help this team? What has he done to develop any wide receivers? Are there any wide receivers that we've drafted that you think have gotten better? Because the last few weeks I saw Cedric Tillman, who I've thought at times was getting better. He looked lost. He looked terrible out there. I mean, I know we have a quarterback carousel, but come on, man. And Jerry Judy, I don't even want to get into Jerry Judy, but it's like, Stefanski, what are you doing? You held on. You had a chance to fire Bubba Ventrone and maybe create a spark. I know these are young players. I know that there's not a lot of depth on this team, right? So naturally, the special teams maybe is lacking, right? But this has been hideous all year. I mean, you lost. Most people are telling me that the Browns have lost 3 games because of special teams, and I tend to agree. I mean, the first game against the Bengals, we lost that because of a missed field goal. You could argue that the Jets game was lost because of two touchdowns that were given up by the Browns special teams. And honestly, this game against the 49ers, if it wasn't for all those special teams gaffes, I think the Browns really would have been in the game, even with the 4th and 1 disaster of a play. But to that point, to Kevin Stefanski keeping these coaches, I don't. I had very little faith in Kevin Stefanski. The only argument I had to keep him was just that Haslam is terrible at hiring coaches and GMs. It was kind of like Kevin might be the best of what we can get just because Haslam refuses to listen to pretty much anybody else. Um, and I don't see that anymore. I can't continue to see this guy continue to make the same mistakes year after year after year, having loyalty to Joe Woods, having loyalty to Bubba Ventrone. I mean, the writing is on the wall. The man has to get fired at the end of the year, as I'm talking about Bubba Ventrone. So, is this man learning any lessons in Kevin Stefanski? I'm not sure he is. Um, I watched him. I watched that 4th down and 1, and Browns fans, I'm sure you can all sympathize with me here on our own 32-yard line. Some of you might have not agreed with the call, right? Some of you might have said, "Hey, we were better off the punt. We were only down 1 score at the time." And I understand that. I actually like the aggressiveness that we had because I thought, "Hey, dude, you're 3-7, 3-8, whatever it was at the time. You go for it, right? You give it a shot and see what happens, right? What do you have to lose?" I didn't think there was anything to lose, and I was happy that they were going for it. But as soon as I saw Wyatt Teller running out there with like less than 10 seconds on the play clock, I was like, "Dude, you got to call a timeout. This is not going to go well." The whole play looked jumbled, mumbled, like they didn't know what they were doing, and it ended up in disaster, right? So in the end, Kevin Stefanski holds on to a timeout that he didn't even need, and it was frustrating. And to the point, actually, to talk about Wyatt Teller, I'm still very confused. I've heard conflicting stories, either that he was injured and that's why he was splitting time with Jenkins, or that they just wanted to see what this guy had at right guard, which I I guess I'm confused either way. If it was just they wanted to see what Jenkins had, I completely don't understand that aspect at all. Wyatt Teller has been a Pro Bowler. He's been a staple of this offensive line, and he, in my opinion, you need to bring him back. If you don't have Batonio, you won't have Pochik, and you have no idea what's going to be happening at the tackle positions. You need at least one staple on this offensive line next year in Wyatt Teller. I don't think you can play uh, pick the puzzle piece and just throw whatever you want on the offensive line. The game, most people say the game is won in the trenches. And if you're just going to play Russian roulette, so to speak, with whoever is playing the position because you want to just test out whoever is playing, I can't get behind that. Lastly, a lot of people are mad at Jerry Judy. I can't be too mad at him for, I guess, yelling at Shedeur on the sidelines. I'm more pissed off at Jerry Judy just for his poor performance for the entirety season, and I'm more frustrated with him just the way he's been playing and the way he's been acting. I mean, guys yell at each other on the sidelines. A lot of NFL players have come out this week and said, "Hey, look, that happens all the time. It just so happened to get caught on the camera." I don't think it's a great look. Judy hasn't really done a whole lot to help his rookie widers or his rookie quarterbacks. So, it is what it is. I think it's okay. I'm not a fan of Judy in the long run, but uh, the other big thing that really frustrated me was Malachi Corley. Another special teams gaff, taking the ball out of bounds at the 5 yard line, just sheer incompetence, and that just kind of wraps up this whole team. I mean, unfortunately, Shedeur didn't look good, and I know I'm actually a Shedeur fan, but a lot of people are going to get mad whenever you say Shedeur didn't look perfect. But I mean, let's be honest, he was missing a lot of his first reads. He instead went to his checkdowns, and his first reads were usually open. So, and I don't fully blame him, right? I think we are seeing more and more evidence that Kevin Stefanski, I think, has his fingerprints all over this check down Charlie stuff. You saw it from Joe Flacco earlier this year. You saw it from Dylan Gabriel, which I don't know that Dylan Gabriel could do anything else, but now you're seeing it from Shedeur, and I don't think that's how you win. I think he's coaching scared, and he's coaching these guys to be scared, and probably talking to them to say, "Hey, keep the ball, prevent the turnovers. We want to hold on to the ball, make safe throws." And I think that's probably a lot of what's happening, and a lot of the reason why you're seeing a lot of this check down Charlie stuff. Let's move on to the rest of the NFL. A little recap here. As far as injuries go, we like to talk about injuries just for all the fans, fantasy purposes, and whatnot. So Justin Herbert fractured his left hand, which is his non-throwing hand. He actually had surgery on Monday. It's unclear to his status moving forward. He's currently listed as questionable. Sauce Gardner, the defensive back that got traded to the Colts this season, strained a calf during the loss to the Texans. He's week to week. Malik Collins, unfortunately, again, big Browns fan. He was having a monster year for himself. He was on pace for, I think, double-digit sacks for a defensive tackle. That's pretty legit. And unfortunately, now Malik Collins is out for the season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, anybody who watched the Thanksgiving game and maybe had a parlay on that man, obviously knows that he went out in the first quarter with a low ankle sprain, did not return to that game, and he is questionable moving forward. And then Patrick Queen, the linebacker of the Steelers, obviously we're in AFC North heavy here. He left the game with a hip injury, and he's also listed as questionable moving forward. So those were the big injuries there for the week. Uh, little bet that me and my co-host made last week was a little lunch bet on the Bears. He said that the Eagles would easily cover the 7.5 point spread. Obviously, as you all know now, the Bears not only covered the spread, they won the game, and they whooped on the Eagles. They move into first in the NFC standings. I just thought it was a beautiful thing. I wasn't a fan of the Ben Johnson strip show that he had in the locker room that was all over Twitter after the game. But I mean, he's enjoying, he's celebrating, right? Good for him. They have the best record in the NFC. Caleb Williams is hot and cold, but I mean, I think they're doing just enough to keep winning. And it's to me, it's fun to watch. My co-host, for those of you that don't know, had no faith in the Bears all season, and I've been kind of rooting for them secretly. So, Nick, you owe me lunch, pal. Um, Other things around the league, Drake May, holy cow, did he dice up the Giants? Uh, 24 for 31, 282 yards passing. The man is making a statement, right? Last week we talked about how Matthew Stafford was the runaway MVP. I think Drake May is making a case. I think it's going to be a hard case to be made, but there's still 5 weeks left, and man, I'm just excited. I think he can make some noise continuing to play the way that he's playing. Um, a lot of people talked about Jackson Dart, the him getting tossed to the sideline and the big, I guess, brawl you could say, so to speak, that happened as a result of that. I I watched it a few times. It was an entertaining clip, but it was a legal hit, right? So it was inbounds, and despite him going flying off to the sideline, and the chaos that ensued afterwards, there was no foul play there that I saw. So uh, it just it was a wow moment for me. I thought the Giants could keep up, and they did not. Uh, Thanksgiving was an underdog sweep. I don't know if that was the first time ever, but it's the first time in a long time. Packers obviously beat out the Lions. Lions, obviously didn't have St. Brown for most of the game. Cowboys hold off the Chiefs, somehow outscore them 31-28, which going into that game, I thought it was going to be a high scoring game, but I thought that the biggest thing was going to be Patrick Mahomes just putting up 40 points on the Cowboys defense. And so that surprised me. And then we already talked about the Bengals. They won as well. Other games around the NFL, the Seahawks just, oh my gosh, they just broke Max Brosmer. I mean, that poor man's rookie debut. He throws 4 interceptions. It's a shutout. I mean, the Seahawks just continue to show dominance on defense. Another defense that was dominant this week was the Bills. Uh, Man, they crushed Pittsburgh, and they crushed them with a run game too, which is honestly something that we haven't seen a whole lot of this year. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun to watch. I think, as a Browns fan, I love watching the Steelers lose any week, but especially with the memes going around of your guy Aaron Rodgers with the little nose thing on saying that he was Marv from Home Alone. Uh, just hilarious, or Harry, I don't remember which one, but uh, Bo Nix and the Broncos. I don't know if there's any Broncos fans out there. Man, they're 10-2. The man just Bo Nix just continues to pull these games out. I I keep saying every week after week after week that I just don't have any faith in this guy, but it just keeps happening, and it's pretty exciting to watch. I don't think it's sustainable in the playoffs, but I mean, your record is your record, right? At this point, they're 10-2, and I'm starting to think, maybe I'm just a little crazy at this point. Maybe Bo Nix is just that good, right? I don't know. Um, Feel free to comment if you've got an opinion in here. Um, Another one, the Panthers surprised the hell out of me. One week they put up 400 yards passing, right? 3 weeks ago. Then they get smoked by the 49ers on Monday Night Football. I don't know if it was because of the lights. They looked abysmal on offense. And I thought, man, this is the end of the Bryce Young experiment. And then they come back and sneak a win over the Rams in a high scoring affair. I mean, Bryce Young was again back to throwing all over the yard. I mean, that was wild. Um, Texans beat the Colts in a low scoring game, which was kind of surprising for the Colts as they were the number one scoring offense going into the week. But no other really big surprises. Then looking into the playoffs, uh, there's not really any surprises. The teams that are in currently sitting in the playoffs have at least one game lead over the teams that are on the outside looking in, right? the teams that are on the outside looking in currently, the Texans, the Steelers, and the AFC, and in the NFC, you've got the Lions and the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are 2 games out of the ranks. The Lions are only a game out of or sorry, no, that's wrong. The the Lions are a couple games out as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if anybody in the NFC sneaks in just because of the few weeks left. I think the biggest team that has the shot to sneak into the playoffs would be the Texans, right? Steelers, I don't have any faith in, and the Texans are currently 7-5, which are behind all 3 wild card teams by 1 game. Right? You've got the Chargers, the Colts, and the Bills all sitting at 8-4 right now. That Texans defense is playing just some dominant football. They're the second best to the Rams as far as points per game. And yeah, no, I could see them sneaking in. The Steelers are sitting at 6-6 right now. They're 2 games out of the wild card. I don't see them beating the Ravens in the division. So I think they would need to fight for a wild card spot. And again, with just 5 games left, I don't see them surpassing the Bills, Colts, or Chargers. So that's kind of a wrap for what's been going on in the NFL. As far as the week ahead, the Bengals are facing the Bills. Again, my co-host, huge Bengals fan. I think he would have told us this week that the Bengals are going to keep up, that Joe Burrow is back, the Savior's back, all is not lost. They're going to go on this magical run and somehow win the AFC North. I'm not buying it. I don't think they win this week. I don't have any assumptions that Joe Burrow, not at 100%, can keep up with Josh Allen and this Bills offense, especially if the Bills can continue the run game that they did last week, which, let's be honest, the Bengals' run defense is way worse than the Steelers. I expect it to be a high-scoring affair, right? So, I certainly don't expect the Bengals to put 5 turnovers on the board. So ultimately, I think it ends up being a closer game than we expect. I think the Bills win 34-27, and I just think Josh Allen just has a monster game against this suspect Bengals defense. Uh, aside from their Thanksgiving surprise. Now on to the Browns. Uh, they're facing the Titans, right? This is a matchup that a lot of people were looking forward to. You could say it when the draft process was being gone through. The number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks that were being talked to were Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people thought that Shedeur would be the number 2 quarterback to get drafted in the top 5. And so now we get to see them play each other in their first NFL game against each other. I I gotta hope, and this is just hope, but I gotta hope that the Browns, especially on special teams, put the damn Jekyll back in the box and get Hyde back out for this one. Um, I, and that's how it's been the last few weeks. It seems that special teams has a horrible game, and then all of a sudden they have a good game, and then they have a horrible game, and then a good game. So with them showing up so poorly last week, I would not be surprised if they have a decent game this week. I'm not saying that they turn any heads or anything, but I think that they can finally show up. And honestly, I think this Titans offense, as bad as most Browns fans feel about their offense, this Titans offense is even worse. So I wouldn't be surprised if Myles Garrett. I I I don't want to say that he breaks the sack record this week. I'm not sure that he can get 4. If you think he can, please shoot me comments. Let me know. I would love the optimism to see if he could break the sack record this week, but I could easily see him getting 2 or 3, but I'm not sure that he gets 4. Um, but I don't see the Browns defense really letting up on this Titans offense, right? They've been abysmal all year. I don't even really know many of their skill players, to be honest with you. Can't even pronounce half their names. And I don't think the Browns defense even allows a touchdown. Um, I'm thinking that if they can keep that defense up and special teams can actually step up, that you could see the Browns really running away with this game. And my other hope on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're going to run the ball a lot. Quinshon Judkins, hopefully get Dylan Sampson involved again a little bit more. I don't want to see Twinkle Toes Jerome Ford out there if he doesn't have to be. I know he's good at the pass blocking, but man, if they can just take the training wheels off of Shedeur and let him throw the dang ball, hopefully he hits when his number one option is open, hopefully he takes that pass and hits them. And I just see the Browns running away with this. I think it's going to be 24-16 Browns over the Titans. And yeah, no, I like I said, I could easily see Myles Garrett with 3 sacks, and he's that much closer to breaking the sack record, right? So let me know if I'm crazy in the chat. And as far as other games in the NFL to look forward to, I mean, yeah, you've got some good games ahead. You've got the Texans and the Chiefs is the Sunday night game. That sounds like it's going to be a good game. You've got that defense that's been the second best in the league going against Mahomes. You've got the Bears, who we talked about earlier, against the Packers. So I think that's going to be a high. It's currently the over for points is only 44.5, but I'm thinking that could be a high scoring affair, much higher than that. Ben Johnson has just got this Bears team rolling, and I don't see Micah Parsons doing enough to stop the run game for the Bears. Uh, Other than that, again, I think we talked about it already. The Bengals and the Bills. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, so that'll probably be exciting. Another close one, I think, will be the Colts and the Jaguars. Now, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Jaguars. I'm honestly, again, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm rooting for them to not do well, just because we have their number one draft pick this year. But the bias aside, I think that the Colts, they got punched in the mouth last week and against a really good defense, and I think that their run game is just way better. And that's actually one of my locks for the week. So every week we do 2 locks for the week each. Nick obviously is not going to give you any this week. I'm thinking that taking the Colts -1.5 should be easy money. I don't have much faith in this Jaguars team. Trevor Lawrence has just not been playing great all year. Obviously, they've been winning in spite of that, but I just don't think that the Jags can keep winning that way. And I fully expect the Colts to win by at least a field goal in this game. So take the Colts -1.5. The other one I like, again, I mentioned it earlier, was the Bengals and the Bills. Now the over in total points for this is pretty high. It's 53.5. It might be one of the highest for the year, but honestly, I could see the Bills putting up damn near 40 points this week against these Bengals and their defense. So, um, and by no means do I see Joe Burrow scoring less than 21 points against the Bills. So I think it would be easy money to take that 53.5 over. So no locks from Nick this week, but that'll wrap up our portion for the NFL. Moving on to the Ohio State portion of the show. Oh my gosh. I mean, can we just talk about the excitement, the elation after 4 years, plus a COVID year, which that team up north backed out of because of too many positive tests? For Ohio State to dominate that game, I mean, that was just everything, right? Obviously, you had the beginning where it was dicey, right? Again, I'm a Browns fan. I'm a huge Buckeyes fan. I'm like so frustrated. I'm like, of course, the Michigan is running rampant on us. They had to cut a few loose, and then Julian Sayin has the early turnover. I'm like, what game am I watching here? This is not the Ohio State Buckeyes that have played all year, right? Fortunately, they turned it around. They took a deep breath, just like I just did, and they settled down. And then they dominated the rest of the way. Obviously, they only allowed 3 field goals, which was a beautiful thing. Michigan couldn't even find the end zone. Michigan couldn't pass the ball at all. Not that they attempted too many passes, but it was nice to see that they were just afraid to even pass the ball. This Ohio State Buckeyes defense has been one for the ages. I mean, they are putting up records. I mean, these are stats that they have, and I'll dive into them deeper maybe next week or later on after the season is over. But I mean, points per game that they're allowing. I mean, they are in the minority for just total years of any points being scored in the last like 50, 60 years per game. So uh, the bomb to kind of the what I thought kind of sealed the game was the bomb to Carnell Tate in the third quarter was just magical. Uh, and then just a show of class by the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? A lot of people are back and forth on the cheating that happened. It's too much of a coincidence, in my opinion. I've watched a lot of the clips of the highlights of when the comms for the Buckeyes went out right magically. Even though everything else in the stadium is working, none of the lighting went out, none of the jumbotron, no electronics in the entire stadium in Ann Arbor went out except for the comms for the Ohio State Buckeyes, not the comms for the Michigan Wolverines, nothing else. So, like, dude, can you guys just stop trying to cheat? And apparently, it happened again to the USC while they were playing Michigan this year. It's just comical. Like, you guys were getting blown out at that point. What was the point? You had Ryan Day after the game tell you that he prepared for that. How embarrassing is that that you have to prepare for your rivalry opponent to cheat? Just year after year. I don't want to get too into it. Let's just enjoy the victory. And then just for Ohio State, the Buckeyes, the coaching staff, all to just be um, after so much losing in that rivalry for the last few years, to have so much poise and calm and just being the adult in the room. You've got all those Michigan players standing on the M. Think about this, right? For those of you that haven't thought about this, Michigan created a plan in case, or I guess for when they lost, to get on the field and protect the M. How insane is that? That you're like preparing to lose a game, a rivalry game against your biggest rival in a game that you need to get into the playoff. You're planning to lose that game and protect your M, so that we don't plant a flag like you did the prior year to our field. Um, so that's just silly. It is hilarious just to watch the Buckeyes. There's all those pictures of the Buckeyes just sitting there with our fans, enjoying the win, while the Michigan players are just standing there. And don't come plant your flag on our M. I mean, oh my goodness, the bitterness and just the hilariousness. That to me wraps up, and then you've got Ryan Day. The videos have come out of Ryan Day just telling telling Mr. Moore, dude, my players are not planting any flags on this field. Just get your players off this field. Like, let us enjoy it. It was hilarious. And then apparently, also on top of that, you had, for those of you that don't know, Michigan only has one tunnel for both teams to come out of. That is just absolutely silly this day and age. But in any event, they only have one tunnel for both teams to come out of. Apparently, even after the Buckeyes are celebrating, Michigan, once they finally got off of their M, which was the only protection that they had the whole day, they apparently sat. Some of the players were sitting in the tunnel waiting for the Buckeyes to come off the field so that they could start some fight. Unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable poise by the Buckeyes, the players, the coaching staff. I mean, I cannot be more proud to be a Ohio State Buckeye fan this year, this week. I mean, it has just been a magical run, and I absolutely loved watching the game this year. I hope you all did too. Lastly, let's talk about the game ahead, right? So since the Buckeyes beat Michigan, they now are going into the Big Ten championship. It's a night game against Indiana. You've got number one Ohio State versus number two Indiana. You've got Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza. Kurt Signetti, who's been a baller all year, I feel like, versus Ryan Day. Both teams are undefeated. Uh, I think this is going to be the toughest matchup that the Buckeyes face this year. And, with the ranking being what it is, obviously most people probably would agree. Now, the Buckeyes are 4.5 point favorites in this game. And I think a lot of people are expecting this game to be a close one. And when I first thought about it, I was thinking, yeah, you're probably right. This is probably going to be a close game, right? Just thinking of how great Indiana has been. But you know what? As I think about our team, the Ohio State Buckeyes, I just don't see it happening. I don't see Indiana putting up the points and the yardage and everything that they have done all year against this defense. Like this defense is just that good. And I think that again, it will be the Buckeyes defense biggest test, but I don't see them giving up more than 17 points in this game, and I would not be surprised if the Buckeyes put up 31 or more. So that is my prediction. I think your Buckeyes, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy game. I'm not saying, we might be tied at halftime, you know, 7-7, 10-10, something like that. But, much like a lot of the games that we've seen earlier this year, the Buckeyes, I think, are just going to roll towards in the second half. And I think they win the game, win the Big Ten championship. Ryan Day gets to check off two big boxes off his list this year and 3 in the last 12 months. And your boys are going in number 1 to the college football playoff, and hopefully they get a good draw, right? So that's all I've got for you this week on this week's episode of the Rust Belt Rivalry podcast. Browns fans, stick in there. Bengals fans, I guess you got a little bit of excitement. I don't know if that might be squandered after this week, but fingers crossed for you guys. Buckeye Nation, what a lot to look forward to. Appreciate you guys all listening in, seeing a lot of the live viewers come in. I appreciate all of that. Please like, subscribe, leave us a review, send some comments, hit us up on social media with your takes. We'll be back next week to break everything down again. Hope you guys have a great week.